Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest of the Overboard Network, a Below Deck podcast. We're back with episode 11 of Below Deck Med titled The Bold and the Betrayal. Now, Sean, I'd really like to say I'm going to start talking about the lack of sensibility when it comes to the titles of these episodes. And like this one is no different. Like I kind of thought about it. I'm like, who's bold? And is the betrayal Natalia? I didn't really see a betrayal there.
Maybe that's the betrayal, but I don't know who's being bold.
Okay.
Is Courtney bold or Storm? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, strong episode by Courtney. We'll get into it. In this week's episode, Interior is officially past the honeymoon period at this point, and we start to see like a strong divide. Courtney continues to impress on the deck team, while Storm starts to consider a lead deckhand. Uh, and last but not least, the guests have pretty much the oddest collection of a celebrity themed party I could think of. So let's just jump right into like what I think is like the crux of this episode here. There's really we start to see an implosion of the interior at this point, and now we knew it wasn't always going to be rainbows and butterflies this entire season, but after such a strong start by the interior, Sean, did you see it going off the rails this quickly?
I didn't, but I think there is an explanation. I kind of blame Kyle. So he decides he meets Frank. He's like, well, I'm in love now.
Yep.
And I'm just going to phone in the rest of the season. I get he wasn't vibing with these guests because they're just like pretty boring ass American girls, right? Like, they weren't spectacular, but dude, you have still have to do your job. And I still don't understand Natasha at all. I
Yeah.
do not have one bit of a read on her. She just wants to be Kyle's friend. So those two together are just never going to do any real work. And yeah, like they both stunk. Like
Yeah.
they're the problem.
Yeah.
I know Natalia is on days off is a weirdo, but like she's got like a pretty good point like tonight as far as like you guys aren't doing any work.
Yeah, I have a hard time. Okay, Sean, I fully agree with everything you said here. So, yes, Natasha's awful. I think she didn't like speak a word like 8 minutes into this episode. All we saw were like cutaways of her texting her boyfriend, which like the texts are still cringe. There was like, I saw like a previously on, and there was 9 new messages from Natasha's boyfriend. I'm like, this is how to lose a girl in 10 days. I mean, just you probably don't
Yeah.
send 9 messages, right? Um, but they're both the worst, Natasha and her boyfriend. So I'm pretty much over them at this point. And this is the weird part too, because Kyle's started to like take Natasha's side. And I do think it's really interesting. Like Kyle got to this point where I forget who he was having like a one-on-one with. I think it was Natasha, but he's like, oh my gosh, there's so much to like overthink in this relationship that I'm gonna have with Frank. And I'm like, let's let's come back to reality here, man. You've known this guy less than a week. Like, how about you just like when you see him next, you really enjoy it, but I wouldn't let like the 72 hours that you kind of spent together like consume your life for the next like 4 weeks while you're still on this boat.
It's
It's insane.
yeah, it's not he's not in a relationship with him yet, right? I mean,
No,
they kiss once. 90-minute phone calls, that is a lot.
zero Amtrak rides.
Zero amateur rides, but long phone calls, very like on like down under like Magda, who's
Yep.
like the 3 hour long ones, which I can't do a phone call that long. Not past the year like 2010. No,
Yep.
that's part of my life's over. Yeah, I Natalia's like, what did you think of her decision to kind of talk to Sandy? So I guess like to back up, I mean,
Right.
Kyle and Natasha are on service. They don't clean at all. They actually do a pretty bad job on service, like after dinner. Like they don't,
Yep.
the guests can't find them for a while. They take a long time making drinks. The guests are trying to stay up. They're not really trying to like help them. They're just talking about Frank. And then Natalia wakes up to like a really bad stew pantry.
Right. And here's the point Natalia tries to get across. She's like, I can't clean up from the night before and do breakfast at the same time. She's like, you guys got to give a little bit. And there were times where Natasha and Kyle were literally just sitting Like I don't know why there's two people sitting until 4 a.m. for like the guests to like get tired, which like maybe just serve them like decaf espresso martinis. It's not like, is it illegal? I don't think so.
No, that was an old Keith trick.
Yeah.
John, yeah, I love there's a moment with from Dave who like doesn't really get to talk a whole lot during this episode, but he just like looks outside at Kyle and Natasha talking. It's just like, yeah, no wonder they're always like they have to stay up so late. They're never doing anything.
Yeah.
By the way, great like Dave the past couple episodes, just most normal guy in the boat.
Yeah. And we'll get into him. Mainly, I feel like he's like an odd like addition by subtraction where like he's doing better without Natasha here at this point.
He's
Like
doing
still
better
there, but
not being the focus of the show.
right.
Just being like a regular dude who's like a really good chef. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Sean, you asked me the question, did I agree? So obviously Natalia brings us up to Natasha, and in very toxic Natasha character thinks that Natalia is just gunning for her job and that's why she's bringing it up. So it's just a terrible look for Natasha. I think Natalia is 100% right. And at the same time, like, yes, going to Sandy is like an aggressive move, but like she can't continue like this. And she's brought this up to Natasha before.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's just not working. So it's like, yeah, sometimes when like your boss isn't doing a good job, not even like your eyes, like you're just like in general, it's like she's just not doing a good job. Sometimes you got to go one higher. And yeah, it can make you look bad to your immediate boss, but you're trying to do what's best for the boat.
Yeah, and I know like Natasha's her boss, but Sandy would never let Natasha fire Natalia
Right.
like that. Sandy would stop that. Sandy's so short with Natasha and Kyle. Whatever you think of her, yeah, I kind of like how she spoke to Kyle, just
Yeah.
like because he's trying to like, Kyle loves talking about how he's the hardest working guy in the boat. He works in both departments. Doesn't mean you're working that hard. Just because you help out 10% in both departments doesn't mean like you're working the most. And like Cindy kind of like just like shuts him down real fast. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, just like start cleaning.
Yeah, because I think she can see it. Like it's one of those things. Like she can kind of notice things, and it. Okay, if we really liked everybody on the interior, like including Natasha, we'd probably be giving Sandy a hard time about like micromanaging them. Like, who cares if the pantry is a little messy? Like the guests aren't being impacted negatively, but we're to the point where these guests are now starting to get impacted negatively, right? Like yeah, they were a little slow on drinks. Like they're just not having the right attitude, and so it's even going to the point where like I think Kyle was saying that he was annoyed by the giggling of the charter guests. I'm like, who is this guy? Like 3 episodes ago, this guy would be chatting it up with them, right? He's just
Yeah.
he's just absolutely broken at this point.
The episode where he was in severe tooth pain, he was like so good with the guests until Sandy made him go to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I just don't. Kyle's like 180 from this guy right now.
Yeah.
Happy's in love, but
yeah. And I will say something about Kyle. Like his sass, I think we can all agree he has sass, right? It's funny and enjoyable when he's right, but it's really annoying when he's wrong.
He talks down to Natalia all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, I really like this guy earlier in the season. Natasha, weirdest chief stew ever. I know there's been less likable ones. The weirdest one is Natasha.
Yeah.
Where I don't like snitches.
Yeah. Super weird. I mean, I don't know why Natasha and Kyle are now have this like snitches get stitches attitude, but they are completely off Natalia. And it sucks because like that interior was fun when they were all like working together. But I mean, I don't blame Natalia at this point.
No, me either. Should we talk exterior?
Yeah, I mean, listen, right now I'm pretty cold. Like before we move on, I'm just gonna sum this up. Natasha and Kyle, I'm pretty cold on. From everything I've like looked at a little bit, I think Natalia is gonna kind of go off the rails personally in the next couple episodes. Like every time we looked at like the previous, like coming up on Below Deck Med, like I think Natalia is like gonna go off the rails. So I'm kind of worried I'm gonna be out on all of interior, which is it's super tough.
John, like I think we brought this up before. They've all been chief stews before. So like I think Natasha was wrong to say like Natalia's only criticizing her because she wants her job. But at the same time, there are three kind of big egos in one
Yeah.
department because they've all like been the main person before. So yeah, it was kind of a matter of time before like Natalia like, did something like this, but like she's 100% justified in it.
Yeah, I think so. So anyway, let's get into exterior a little bit, like you mentioned. So we're kind of left on a cliffhanger in the
Mm.
previous episode because we've got some tangled anchor lines. They kind of left us on the cliffhanger with Jason saying somebody's going to lose an arm. Well, guess what, Sean? Nobody lost an arm. This happens all the time. Like this is like with like the remember what was it like The Bachelor with the guy Chris? He'd always say like the most intense twist in Bachelor history. It's like no, it's the same shit that happens all the time. It's like yeah, nobody lost an arm. We're fine.
I used to love that show. I had like a good like 7 year run with it, and then I realized that every crazy thing that could happen I had already seen,
Yep.
and I was like, all right, I'm good. Like that's it.
Yep. Yeah, we were real into it, like early
10s.
2010s.
That
Yeah.
was like the peak, like
Yeah.
2010 through like 20. It was a 2010 show. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to still be on. But
Right, exactly. Um, so anyway, exterior, like we can talk about Jason till we're blue in the face, but honestly, this guy didn't get much he didn't get much airtime. I think it's like on the one end he stinks, and on the other end he's bad at his job. So is there anything really much to say about him except we're in the same spot we were last episode?
yeah, what is it? Well, with the cleaning supplies being left out, and Storm confronts Jason, and Jason goes, well, if you ask me to do it, I can do it. And Storm, really good retort though, because like obviously putting stuff away is kind of implied in your job title as a deckhand.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
Storm goes, you're a skipper, aren't you? That was a nice little like dig too. Like I shouldn't have to tell you this, man. You claim to be a skipper. Like
Right.
you're going at his ego a little bit.
Yep.
And now whether or not that works is to be seen because like Z kind of brings up later in the episode, like when Z tells Jason to do something, he does it because like Z just has like really good soft skills.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because like Z's like such like a non-threatening, likable guy. You're not going to take it personally when he gives you constructive criticism. Where when Storm does it, I don't know, like I don't know, Jason doesn't take it well from Storm.
So I think I want to go into one small thing about that, Sean.
Mm.
So when Z asks Jason to put away the inflatables, Jason goes, "What are you doing?"
Okay, yeah,
And he's like, "Well, I'm doing the jet ski." And he's like, "Okay, I'll put away the inflatables." As if like Z was going to be like, "I'm not doing anything. I just didn't feel like doing it, so I delegated it to you." Like I just it's one of these like Jason just continues to stink, man. And yes, he probably does have a better relationship with Z because Jason hates authority and Z's not necessarily above him as of yet. But that brings us to the next conversation.
well. Oh, sorry, John. Before we get there, that's a good point because I also when Courtney and Jason have their little tiff, it's because Jason's like squeegeeing like the deck, and Courtney goes, "Z already did that," and Jason goes, "Well, he didn't do a good job," and she just walks away. So yeah, you're right. Jason doesn't respect Z either. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep. No, it's quite all right. By the way, happy birthday, Z.
I know, right?
It's his birthday. I always kind of like that being like a nice tradition, you know?
Yeah, I'm excited for next week's night out or whatever they do.
Yeah, I will say like Z bringing up like a birthday week really gave me like sorority vibes. But
Oh yeah,
go on him. Um, he was a team player in this whole episode. But Sean, let's go into where this season's gonna continue to go off the rails, I think, a little bit with Storm naming a what was
lead deckhand.
lead deckhand. Yeah. So he's gonna name it lead deckhand. Also, he's having anxiety about it. Hey, Storm, guess what? You don't need to name a lead deckhand. You don't need to do it. We never need them. all it causes is like all this drama